Hi everyone, and welcome to Moonstone Makes. My name is Tommi. You can find me on Ravelry and Instagram as DynamiteTrujillo. Welcome to episode 116. Thank you so much for being here. If you're a new viewer, welcome. And if you're a returning viewer, a big welcome back. Today is a really bright and sunny and cold Friday in March here on the Northern California coast where I'm coming to you from. There are show notes for this episode in the description box below. That's where I link to everything that I talk about in today's episode. So check down there if there's anything you want to look further into. And how are you? I hope your March is going really, really well. It is officially spring and I'm so excited. And that actually means we are entering the next phase of our Seasons Make-Along for this year. The Seasons Make-Along is a year-long make-along that I'm hosting on Instagram and on Ravelry, and it's where when you are in whatever season you are in, you can make something inspired by that season. And we've just wrapped up the winter season, so the Ravelry FO thread is now closed for that. The hashtag on Instagram is still going, though. It's the same hashtag for all the seasons. It is Seasons MAL 2021 on Instagram. And I have drawn for prizes. So I opened up a new spring FO thread in Ravelry, and I've chosen one winner from the winter FO thread and one winner from the winter timeline of the hashtag on Instagram. So I think I'm going to start straight away with just telling you who the winners are. And if they are you, congratulations. Please contact me. You can contact me either through Instagram, Ravelry, or my email address, or my contact form, both of which, the latter, you can find on my website, which is linked below. So I will announce the Ravelry winner first. So I chose from the Ravelry FO thread for the winter seasons make-along, winter/summer, because the Southern Hemisphere people, it was summertime for you. And I random number generated number, I think it was 79, I can't remember now, but it was 70 something. And the winner was Mari Knits a Lot. Congratulations, Mari Knits a Lot. You made a really beautiful pair of like icy blue lace socks, and they were wonderful and perfect. So you are going to be winning the yarn box that Darn Good Yarn donated to the podcast. And in this, you're going to be getting this beautiful skein of handspun silk, and a pair of knitting needles and a crochet hook, both of which go with the pattern designed for this yarn, which is included in this booklet. And it is a cowl, but you can use it for whatever you want. So send me your mailing address and I will get your prize out to you. Congratulations, and thank you for participating. The Instagram winner was Shelly Mae Renee, who knit a beautiful throwback pullover. That is a pattern by Andrea Mowry, and I love it. The colors were beautiful. It was a beautiful sweater. So Shelly Mae Renee, contact me and let me know your mailing address, and you are winning our beautiful stitch markers donated by Nicole of Time Weaver. And this is a set of jade and quartz stitch markers. So congratulations. Thank you so much to everybody who participated in the winter/summer edition. And I hope that you'll continue joining us for spring/autumn. Spring in the Northern Hemisphere, autumn in the Southern. And we're going to keep this going all year long. So make anything inspired by the season that you're in. The constraints are few, so it could be weather related, date related, if there's a holiday or a birthday or something, or a birth or something like that in that season. Anything inspired by something happening in that season, it works. So come on over and join. The next make-along that we are still currently running is the Finish It, Fix It, or Frog It make-along. Same thing, there's a Ravelry FO and chatter thread in my group, which is linked below. There's also a hashtag on Instagram, which is hashtag FinFixFrogMAL. And that is one that I'm really excited about. It is running until the end of April. and it's where you can take unfinished objects, UFOs, stuff that's been sitting around for a while that hasn't been finished, and either frog it, the frogged yarn counts as an FO, finish it, or take a finished object, something you have already finished that you're not using, you're not wearing, and either rip it back and fix it or just frog the whole thing. And anything that you make out of that frogged yarn counts as an FO as well. So that's pretty much it. I feel like a really inspiring make along. If you check out the hashtag on Instagram and the Ravelry Group thread for that make along, there are lots of people doing really amazing things. I'm very inspired by people who are finishing long-term projects and deciding not to finish long-term projects, ripping out the yarn and repurposing it. That's mostly what I've been doing, is repurposing a lot of yarn from old projects that I either don't want to finish or rip out because I'm not wearing the finished object of. So I hope you'll join in on that too. That's running for another month or so till the end of April. So let's move on to what I have been making. In this week's episode, I've got some knitting and some spinning to share. And I'm going to start off by just telling you what I'm wearing. I'm wearing my Stroker sweater by Sol de Tigre. This sweater I knit out of Harrisville Designs. I don't know the base, but it's their kind of basic flagship, I think, worsted weight woolen spun yarn. And I used a charcoal gray, a really purpley purple, and a silver gray. And this pattern was designed as a pullover, and I knit it as a pullover, and then never wore it. I just didn't, I don't know. I've learned about myself that I'm not that into pullovers, especially when they're fitted. I haven't experimented too much with oversized pullovers. I've experimented a little bit and haven't loved the results, but I think I need to experiment more. I think I need to broaden my horizons on kind of positive ease, oversized pullovers. But anyway, this was like a zero ease pullover. It was fitted, it was really beautiful, but I never wore it. And I decided to steek it and make it into a cardigan, which is something that I wear a lot more of. So I talked about it a lot back when I did it. And pretty much what I did is I just picked a middle point because I didn't add in any steek stitches when I knit it because I wasn't planning on steeking it. So I just picked a middle point and I cut it. And then I added on a button band here and put some buttons on it. And it worked out really, really, really well. So I think this was my very first steeked project. I have since steeked one more sweater, which was the Guthrie pullover by Caitlin Hunter. And that one I knew in advance I wanted to make, but I didn't want it to be a pullover. I wanted it to be a cardigan, so I added in steek stitches as I knit it and steeked it. Turned out I never wore that one either, so I ended up giving it away. But I am currently working on my third steeked project, which is actually, I'm inching my way into like properly steeking things. My third project, which I'll talk about in a little bit, is actually written to be steeked. So I actually have some actual instructions to follow, so that's good. But anyway, I love this sweater. I'm really happy I made it into a cardigan. It's non-super washable, so it was very easy to do. I did do a reinforcement like crochet thing. I'm not good at terminology when it comes to steeking. I don't know what it's called. But I kind of just did it on a whim, and in searching for some yarn in my stash to do it and also not quite knowing what I was doing, I chose a stupid yarn to do the reinforcement stitch with, or whatever it's called, only because it's like a really different color, but that's what the reinforcement looks like. So this is just a line of crochet stitches right on the edge of where I steeked it, and it's just like beige instead of gray. And it's because that's what I had that was already opened. I didn't want to open like a full new skein of yarn to do that. So anyway, I really love how this sweater came out though, and I do wear it pretty frequently. I also really, really enjoy this yarn. I love Hairspell Designs. I've knit with several of their yarns for at least 2 different garments, and I really, really love it a lot. So that's it for this sweater, the Stroker by Isolde Teague. It was wonderful. Wonderful. Let's get into my works in progress. I have one new work in progress, and it is a pair of socks. It is living in my Foxy Sugar Tots bag. And it's a pair of socks. It's a very exciting pair of socks. I have one done, so I'm going to show you that first. Here it is. So this is a pair of handspun socks. And the handspun yarn was some Moon Rover fiber. It was the Kettle Dyed Superwash Fiber Club from 2015. And this was the March 2015 shipment. So kind of perfect timing. And it's superwash merino, 85%, and then 15% nylon. I said that nicely, didn't I? It was a really beautiful yarn to spin. I spun it a long time ago. I probably spun it about when I got it, I'm guessing. And I've been kind of preciously hoarding this skein of handspun ever since. It came out to be about a sport to a DK. The yardage on it is 394 yards to 124 grams, which I calculated to be like a DK. When I look at it, I feel like it's more of a sport, but it's really, I think it's knitting up as like a DK. It's a 3-ply, and it is a traditional 3-ply. So I split the braid. If I remember correctly, what I did is I split the braid lengthwise to keep the color progression, because it was all in color blocks. Like, I think there were only like 4 or 5 colors, and they were just all chunks of color all the way down. And I don't think there were really many repeats. So I split it down this way into 3 pieces, and then spun each as a single, and then plied it from not the beginning end, but the ending end, which is a technique I figured out to try to keep the colors as consistent as possible for as long as possible. I don't know if that makes any sense, but when you're doing a 3-ply and you're trying to keep the colors next to each other, your 3 different plies can most likely are going to turn out a little bit different in length. So if you start from where you ended, I think I figured that you can keep them kind of together the longest. I don't know. No, it's the other way. It's you start from the beginning. Because usually when you spin singles and then you start plying them, you start plying from the end that you finished with. So the very end of the fiber braid. So I did it the other way. I said it wrong to begin with. So what I did is I probably caked it up and I tried to start from the beginning, which would have been the middle of the bobbin. I'm making this very confusing. But so I started plying from the beginning, pretty much, which meant I had to do it backwards. But anyway, the colors kept together really nicely. I have like, it's kind of like a color block sock, but the thing is that since there are no repeats, they're kind of funny because they're not like self-striping, they're just color blocked, but each sock is going to be different. So anyway, that's enough of that. Here's the first sock. I made very long socks. I cast on, let's see, I cast on 60 stitches on a US size 2 needle. And then I decreased 6 stitches over like a few inches and got down to 54 stitches. And that's where I ended up with my foot. So I did a 2x2 ribbing for the cuff, and then just stockinette. My decreases are kind of in this area. And this is a brand new heel to me. Do you recognize it? Have you knit this heel before? This is the vanilla is the new black heel. I decided to try it. I've been wanting to try it for a little while, and I like it. Okay. I think I'm gonna have to see how it wears. My kind of one thing that makes me not super in love with it at this point yet is that it did come out to be a very, very deep heel. Like, deeper than I would normally like. I think I'm kind of a Goldilocks situation in terms of heels. I need it to be just right. If it's too shallow, I don't like it. And if it's too deep, I don't like it. So this one is pretty deep. And it's also, the whole thing about it is that it's got some like ribbing in it. So it makes it very stretchy in addition to it being very deep, which can be really good. But I'm just not sure yet if it's going to be good for me in these socks. I think so. Like, I try it on and it's not like super baggy. It's just a teeny bit loose. But these whole socks are a teeny bit loose. I kind of made them to be not super, super snug fitting because that's kind of how I am liking thicker, especially like handspun socks lately, to be a little more like slipper style. So I think it's going to be good. I just have to wait until I wash them and actually wear them around to really judge. But I just did a plain toe where I decreased 2 stitches, 1 stitch on each side every other round. And yeah, that's them. I really love how they came out. Super happy to be using this yarn. Like I said, I have been kind of coveting this skein of handspun for so long, and I'm very happy to be using it. I love how the colors came out on this one. You got that big middle section of that nice orange, and then these 2 sections here are like a kind of sagey green gray and just a little bit of pink at the top. And so what I did to kind of break it up is I caked the yarn and then I split it up into 2 equally weighed cakes so that I wouldn't run out of yarn, because I knew I wanted to make long socks and I thought I was going to run out of yarn. So these don't come all the way up to my knee. They come up just kind of maybe like 2 inches short of where my knee is, which is nice. I actually really like that length, but I did have some yarn left over. I did them top down. So that's what I have left. I definitely could have made them a little taller. And I think I would have if I would have known that I was going to have leftover, but I'm really happy with the length of them. I thought, like I said, I thought I was going to use the whole cake for this sock, and I was anticipating having to do a contrast toe, but I got plenty left over. So this is the first one. It fits really nicely. It fits like kind of a teeny bit loose, and the length is really great, and I really like it. The second one is looking like this so far. So that is pretty different. This one definitely has more pink in it. The way I split up the skein is like that is the skein right there. So right where this ends, this one begins. And you've got the pink on the cuff, and then it's going into a big middle section of pink. And there's no orange in this one, so it's just gonna end with more of that grayish green, but there's more brown in the center of that one. So I'm gonna have like one mostly orange sock and one mostly pink sock, but I think they're gonna look really good, and I'm very excited to have these. So this one, I've done my decreases, and I'm at the point where right now, my next round, I'm gonna start the heel. And it's a pretty easy heel to follow. There are 2 versions of it. Again, it's the vanilla is the new black. Oh, I didn't look up the designer. I'm sorry, I forgot to look up the designer, but it was down here. So this is a pattern that comes in 2 versions. It comes in like the regular version for fingering weight yarn in different sizes, and then it comes in a DK/sport weight version for different stitch counts. I ended up getting both because you could get the package deal for like a little cheaper, and I wasn't sure what stitch count I was going to want to use for this. I was kind of a little experimental at first in what I wanted my stitch count to be. So I ended up needing the DK version for the 60 stitches of my socks. Well, see, it's different because they start out at 60 stitches, but by the time you get down here, I'm at 54 stitches. So I ended up using the 56 stitch instructions, and I just finagled 2 stitches additional onto my heel needle, if that makes sense. I'm doing magic loop on my Chiaogus. This is from my interchangeable set. So that number was in the DK version, and the thing about the original pattern, which is the fingering weight version, is it comes with a chart that's very handy. The DK version does not come with the chart, so if you only buy the DK version, you only get written instructions, and I feel like the chart is way super helpful in understanding those instructions. So I ended up going back and forth between the 2 patterns to look at the chart and just kind of continue on to my DK stitch count. So that's a little bit unfortunate, I feel like. I don't know. Like I'm sure there are people who just buy the DK version, but maybe the designer was banking on people buying either just the fingering or both, like the DK as a supplemental one. But anyway, it was a pretty easy pattern to follow once I got the hang of it. At first I was a little, it wasn't confusing, but I was just a little, you know, I was getting used to doing a new thing that like didn't quite make sense yet. But once I got going on it, it started to make sense. You are doing increases, and it took me a little while to figure out what increases worked best for me. So you might not be able to tell, but down here where the increases were happening at first, they're a little bit sloppier than up here, where I started doing them. I started picking the increase that I liked the best and doing it a little more consistently. But it's not like a huge deal. You can't really tell. I do have some like teeny holes right here with the increases. So I did have to kind of figure out what increase was going to work the best for me for this kind of thing. And then I actually hope I remember for this sock what increases I did, because I don't think I noted it anywhere. But yes, so I'm having a lot of fun with these. I love knitting with Handspun, especially when it's socks and just stockinette like this. It's like my favorite. So I'm very happy to be using this, and I'm having a really good time knitting these socks. They're going by very fast because they are thicker weight, heavier gauge, heavier weight, bigger gauge socks on bigger needles. They're on a size 2, so that's really nice. And that is them. I'm very excited for them to be done. In here I have some little snips, and these are my very favorite little snips ever. They're from Merchant and Mills is the brand, and they're these little black metal scissors. They're just the best. They have bigger versions of like scissors made out of this material, and I really want some more. I love these though. They're my favorite snips. They're the only ones. They're the only ones to me. Okay, so that is my first work in progress. My next work in progress is something you saw last time, and it is my, what is it called? It's my Spark. So my Spark cardigan, it is a pattern by Andrea Mowry, and it is living in this too small fat squirrel bag. It cannot zip up anymore. And let me show you what I have done. So last episode you saw, I think, a finished sleeve, and now I have 2 finished sleeves. So this is a pattern that calls for worsted weight yarn. It calls for a main, like, solid-ish color, and then a contrast color of, like, well, you can use anything you want. They call for spin cycle, which is like a gradiating dyed in the wool kind of yarn. I'm using Handspun, and for my main color, I misspoke in my last episode and I said I was using Malabrio Rio, so that is wrong. I'm using Dream in Color Classy, which is their, I believe it's 100% superwash merino worsted weight. And this is in the chocolate night colorway. And this is some yarn that oh my goodness, that I have ripped out from 2 previous sweaters. This is its 3rd life as a sweater. That's for the main color. My contrast yarn is, like I said, some handspun. So this is some handspun that I spun up specifically for this project. And it's a combo spin, which means I used 1 braid of fiber for 1 ply and a totally separate, different braid of fiber for the second ply. It is a worsted weight, and it is total, this skein was 179 grams, 400 yards. And for 1 ply, I used Into the World in the second spring colorway, which was a Cheviot. And then for the other ply, I used Spun Right Round in the Cornucopia colorway, which was Falkland. And I believe these are both non-superwash fibers. When it doesn't say that it is superwash, I assume that it is not. So that's them. And I really like it. It's very autumnal. It's very like brown, orange, and green based. There are some purples in here and some like maroony kind of shades. I'm really liking how it's turning out. So here's one sleeve. And you start from the bottom up. The whole sweater's bottom up. You do a really long ribbed cuff. And that is the colorwork motif. I didn't do any color management. I just kind of like let the color of the contrast yarn start wherever it was. And actually, the 2 sleeves kind of worked out a little bit matchy. Kind of. Maybe not. Maybe it's more in my imagination. No, I think they're a little matchy, kind of. But so those are my 2 finished sleeves. And I think they're so cool looking. And I have started on the body. So, this is being knit on my Haya Sharp interchangeable set right now. I'm using a US 7 for the main fabric, which is what the pattern calls for. I used a US 5 on the ribbing. For the sleeves, I used my Chiaogu short tips so that I could do the small circumference totally in the round. I enjoyed it. Definitely took some getting used to, but I enjoyed it. I'm not quite used to doing small circumferences in the round on these like teeny tiny needles. But this set, which is an interchangeable set, comes with a set of these longer tips and a set of these shorter tips, and they're both pretty short. So it's kind of nice because you can, if you have the space, if you have enough stitches to do it, you can use the short cable and use 1 long needle and 1 short needle. And for me, that helped because this hand likes a long needle and this hand doesn't care. So that was kind of nice. And normally I would do something like that on Magic Loop instead. So that was fun. The body starts with a, what is this? It's like a 4x4 rib. Yeah, it's a 4x4 rib. And this right here in the front at the beginning of the round is my steek panel. So it's got the colorwork design that is just starting to emerge. And then for the steek panel, it's just these alternating stitches. And so at the end, so I'm knitting it in the round, but it is a cardigan, and at the end, I will cut up that steek panel and steek it, and then I haven't read forward in the instructions, but this is a superwash yarn. So I'm assuming I'll do something that I have not done before in steeking and do possibly a machine reinforcement, which is one of the ways that you can reinforce a steek by using a sewing machine. Now with non-superwash yarns, when you're steeking, on one extreme, you don't really need, if you're comfortable with it, you don't really need any reinforcement. You can just cut it, add your button bands, and it will never unravel because it's non-superwash. If you have the right yarn, it will pretty much adhere to itself and be its own reinforcement, because that's how wool works. But if you have smoother yarns, slipperier yarns, superwash yarns, it may not do that. It definitely won't do that with superwash yarns. So that's when you really need reinforcements. So I don't know. I don't quite think a crocheted reinforcement, which is just crocheting an extra piece of yarn up through your steek, is gonna be enough for superwash yarn. So I'm gonna see what she says in the pattern. I'm pretty sure the pattern was designed in a superwash yarn, so she's probably writing it for that, I'm guessing. But we'll see what she says when I get to that point in the pattern. And if she doesn't call for a machine reinforcement, I'll probably do it anyway and just look it up on YouTube to see how to do it, because I definitely don't trust this beautiful, luxurious, soft superwash merino to not come unraveled unless I machine reinforce it. Now I'm sure everybody's experience is slightly different, and I'm sure some people do get away with it, and that's great. I'm not gonna risk it. I don't want to. So I have my fingers crossed for this third project for this yarn to be the one, and I'm very excited to be knitting this. It's really fun to knit. The color work's really fun. The bottom of everything has this kind of V formation pattern, and then the rest, including the body, once I get past this little section of the body, it's just all this, which is just all like a 1x1 color work, and there are plain knit rounds in between some of those of just the main color. So it's a really nice way to break up color work knitting, and it's been really fun. I've really been enjoying this project, and I am excited to steek again. I really do like steeking, and I just love cardigans, and I really love the idea of knitting my cardigans in the round. So yeah, so here's my yarn again. I just think it's really nice. Oh, okay. Is that it for that? Here's my other two skeins. This is what I have left other than what's already caked up for my main color. Okay, let's move on to spinning, because that's all I have. That's all I have for knitting. That's all I've been working on. Two things. Okay, for my spinning, I went into my fiber stash. I have been inspired lately to do, I was about to say I've been inspired to do some spinning lately, because I haven't been doing much spinning lately, but I realized that my last two projects are being knit out of Handspun, so it may not seem that way. But, and one of the Handspuns was a recent Handspun. But anyway, I have been inspired lately to do some spinning because I want to buy some more fiber, and I need to not unless I use what I have. So I discovered a fiber prepper and seller by the name of, oh shoot, I forget what she's called. Let me see if I can look it up. Artifacts of Appreciation is what she's called. And she cards really beautiful bats with mostly natural, I think non-superwash fibers, and then kind of adds in pops of color and other fibers and things like, you know, I don't know, silk or cashmere and stuff like that, but just in small amounts. And most of it is the, you know, natural fiber. And I really love stuff like that. That's kind of my I've learned about myself that that's my favorite way. That's my favorite thing to spin are, I think, bats, but I really like top too, and just roving. But mostly non-superwash blends of natural wools, but with other cool things blended into it, like pops of color, pops of silk, pops of sparkle, stuff like that. I love that kind of thing, which is why I really love Classy Squid Fiber Co. She's really good at that too. So I discovered her. Her shop is empty right now, except for these like mystery sock spinning kits, which I'm so tempted by. But I'm going to wait till her next shop update, which I think is in April. So I have a little time before seeing what she has in her shop, but I'm really tempted by her stuff. It's so beautiful. I love it. You should check it out if you're interested. I'll link to it below. It's called Artifacts of Appreciation. She has a YouTube channel too, which I've been enjoying. But like I said, so I'm not going to buy anything right now, especially because I'm going to wait to look at her next like proper update. And in the meantime, I was like, I need to get some stuff out of my fiber stash. So I went through and I picked out another one of my really old braids because all of my braids are old. I went through a fiber stashing extravaganza when I first started spinning. And then I eventually stopped because I was building up too much of a stash. And then I haven't really bought much fiber since in the last like really long time, like years and years and years. So I'm still working through my very old stash, and this is one of those braids. This is some top, and it's from Cloud Lover. And I was in her club, and this was like the holiday edition of her club. So it came with this Christmas card, which I still have, and it has all the information in it, and it's super cute. So it's the December 2014 Fiber Club. It's called Spice Cake, and it's 75% organic Polwarth, 25% silk. And it's lovely. It's so soft. It's so soft. So I just love this color combination. It's really deep, rich browns. There's a lot of white left in here, which I'm a huge, huge fan of. I love these magentas. There's also lots of oranges. So this is half of it. I split the thing in half this way. So I took the whole length of the braid and just split it in half this way. I weighed both halves to make sure they weighed the same. Each half is going to be a ply. So this is one full half. And then this is what I have left of the one that I'm working on now. And very fancy, like I brought over my bobbin and everything so that you could see my progress. So that is what I have so far. I'm spinning it up pretty thin. I'm imagining when this comes out it's going to be a sport weight or maybe a fingering. What is that? And it's really nice. Silk isn't my favorite thing to spin because it's very, very slippery. And this yarn is very slippery, which gives me a little bit of hand crampiness when I spin it because I'm constantly, like my intuition is to like really grip it because if I don't, it'll just go flying. And I am spinning this with a short draw. So it's short forward, short backward kind of combo drafting technique. And it definitely is a little pinchy crampy because it's so slippery, but it's very beautiful. It's like insane how soft this is. Like seriously, super duper soft. I don't know what I'm going to do with it. I have no plan, but you know, socks have kind of been my go-to for handspun lately. I've just been really, really, really loving handspun socks. And I've never knit a pair of socks with silk in it before. I don't think I want to. I don't know. We'll see how the yarn comes out. I have no idea. I don't know what I'll do with it. But it's very beautiful. I'm spinning this on my Shocked Ladybug, which is my spinning wheel, and that's it. It's going to be a 2-ply, and hopefully I can get that done in some good time so that I can indulge in a little shop update coming up. And you know, if you know of fiber sellers who prep that style of fiber that I was talking about earlier, I would love to hear about it because I do go in these phases where I try to find people who sell stuff like that where it isn't just a beautiful braid of hand-dyed fiber that is superwash. I want best of both worlds, right? I want non-superwash natural stuff with the beautiful hand-dyed element, you know. I want it all. and I want to eat it too. So if you happen to know of anybody else who does stuff like that, I think the only two that I can think of that kind of scratch that itch for me are, I think, this person that I just discovered. And I discovered them through the Happy Hour with Les Garçons podcast, which I talked about recently, also a fairly new podcast that I'll link to below. Max the Knitter is a part of that podcast, and he has recently gotten into spinning, and he's discovering a bunch of fiber sellers, preppers, whatever. And so I got it from him. But so Artifacts of Appreciation, and then Classy Squid Fiber Co. also. And I can't really think of anybody else who kind of does that for me. So if you happen to know of anybody, definitely let me know in the comments below. I would love that. Okay, let's move on to my last segment of today's episode, which is shop update. So I am the dyer behind Moonstone Dyeworks, and there's a link to the shop in the description box below. I'm going to be having a shop update tomorrow, which is Saturday, March 27th at 9 a.m. Pacific time. So I'm just going to quickly show you some of the things that will be in the shop tomorrow. So tomorrow I'm going to have some really old classic Moonstone Dyeworks colorways and some brand new colorways, also some one-off colorways, and it's all very spring inspired. So the first one that I was very excited to dye again, that I haven't dyed in a long time, is Moon Age Daydream. So this was one of my kind of OG colorways, and I love it. I will also have Modern Etiquette, which is one of my very first colorways that I created a long time ago. And this one's got lots of like pastels and neons in it. I love it. This is that same Modern Etiquette on mohair. And I'll have all these on different bases, but I brought this one over just to show how different mohair takes color sometimes. This one's just, I mean, you can tell. They're sisters and they're gonna look beautiful together, but they're just so nicely different. The next one, this is a one of a kind. So what's in the shop now is all there will ever be of this one, and this one's called Snorkeling. And this is like a peachy pink with some grays and lots of teeny tiny blue speckles. And then another super springy one that I'm bringing back is Over and Over. And this is a very bright kind of neon coral. So these next few skeins are kind of a new series that I'm playing around with that I'm calling my Dip series, and these are them. So pretty much each of these skeins is kind of half and half in color. This one is called Lime Dip, and it's got like a lime green and then a blue for the other half. This one's called Cotton Candy Dip, and this one's a light pink and like a dusky periwinkle-y kind of purple. This one's Raspberry Dip, and this has got like a brighter kind of raspberry sherbet kind of pink, and also it's like a periwinkle kind of purple, but it's a little bit of a darker shade. So let me show you what it looks like unwrapped. So that is it. It's just kind of like a color gradient from one end of the loop to the other. And I've been having a lot of fun playing with these. So you might expect to see more of this kind of thing in the shop, but we'll see. Right now, these ones are vaguely one of a kind because I was just playing and I did not write down what I did. But I could probably replicate these for the most part, but I do hope to do more experimenting with this style, especially if people are interested, and I can definitely start with some repeatable colorways for this stuff. So as of right now, for these dip ones, what is in the shop tomorrow morning is all that there will be of these particular colorways, but hopefully there will be more. Especially if requested, I will definitely work on it because I want to do what you want. So that is everything that will be up in the shop tomorrow. Again, it's going to be Saturday, March 27th at 9 a.m. If you happen to get there late, don't worry. It doesn't ever typically sell out super fast. So if you're finding out about the update late and you're interested, check it out, and what you want might still be there. Also, there will be some seconds skeins, some oddities, if you will. So I had a couple faux pas in the dye pot this past round of dyeing. So I am going to be putting those up in the shop at a discount. So you'll see a few skeins up like that. And you'll know because I will call them oddities. I think that's what I'm going to call them, is all oddities. And they'll be at a discounted price. So there's just going to be a few of those if you're interested. It's just one of the skeins, there was a knot in it, so I'm discounting that one. Another couple of the skeins got some dye powder that was not supposed to be in that colorway in the pot. So there's a couple little speckles that are not supposed to be there. So stuff like that. And there's just going to be a few. And as always, if what you want isn't available on the base that you want or in the quantity that you want, always feel free to message me and I can see if it's something that I can do a special order for. I'm always happy to do special orders if I can. So I hope to see you tomorrow if you're interested in checking out my yarn. Moonstone Dyeworks. Okay. So I think I will leave you there. I don't have any favorites. I'm not going to do favorites. I'm not just going to start rambling. Cutting myself off. Okay, I hope your day is good. If it's the weekend for you right now when you're watching, happy weekend. I hope you're having a really great day or evening. I hope you're enjoying a nice beverage, be it a morning-ish coffee or tea or a late night cocktail or sparkly water. I will see you in a couple weeks. Please join in on the make-alongs if you're interested. And if you liked the video, please do feel free to like and subscribe and comment below. I would love to hear from you. And thank you so much for being here. Have fun and stay awesome. Bye.